So, have you ever thought to yourself, if I took like two large bandsaw blades and like duct taped them to my wrists and then glued some like big deer antlers onto a helmet and put that on, I could go out as a superhero called Bucksaw. And like originally people would probably laugh at the name and like say it's stupid, but as I like slowly dealt with petty crime in the area and really sort of made a grassroots difference in the neighborhood and the community, I could sort of swing a wave of popularity such that when eventually the police did catch up to me and imprison me, because definitely illegal, like public outcry could make them go easy on me and I'd sort of just become like a folk hero.
Oh yeah, I think about that all the time.
Me too. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Magical Talking Hat podcast, the only podcast in the world guaranteed 100% made up of inaccurate Winston Churchill quotes, apocryphal Winston Churchill quotes. Nothing we say on the show Winston Churchill ever said. None of it. I'm Tony.
And I'm William, and this is episode 570.
And we will fight them on the beach. Oh, shit.
You ruined it. We had a good thing going for 11 years, and you just ruined it.
No, I think I had a cold open topic earlier today, but I completely forgot it. So I went with Bucksaw instead.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thanks. For those of you just joining us, here's how the show works. We have a hat. It is magic in that it has its own email address, themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. And people, I've worked it out, is basically Asher Talon, Mick, Beth, and sometimes Jazz. Jazz, the Neil Young of the group. Right into that email address with whatever the heck they feel like, and then the hat all on its own magically checks its email and forwards us what it wants to, and then we read them on the air and we talk about them and do that for about an hour, and that's the goal. We often fall short of. And also I should specify the rest of you should also email in whatever you want, because that is our lifeblood. We would shrivel and die if you stop emailing. Whoa! Oh my God! Did somebody not have lunch yet?
No, I ate lunch right before I came in here.
Something digestive just got picked up on the mic.
Oh.
I heard your tummy making noises. As my wife explains to me, though, tummy's talking is not necessarily hunger. It can be talking for other reasons.
So that's interesting because even though I didn't hear anything or feel anything, that doesn't matter because I have my headphones on, so I wouldn't necessarily hear it. And I don't often. Sometimes when I hear a stomach growling or whatever, I'm like, what is that? Is that you? It's Abby or whatever. So someone has to tell me, no, that's you, dummy. So, I mean, he neither heard nor felt anything, but I wouldn't doubt that there's something going on there.
Trish's tummy talks a lot. Mine doesn't talk very often. It'll do I will feel something, but it doesn't make an audible sound very often anymore. I think it did when I was younger. Probably because I never let myself get very hungry or anything. So it's just always got stuff to do.
Well, I had some chocolate right before coming in. I think sometimes
that's what it is. Your stomach's like, all right.
Give me some more of that.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So yeah, I can't doubt your word because my stomach is kind of noisy, honestly.
I don't think it's uncommon. Sadly, my intestines are noisier, but that's not a fun topic. Or fun feeling. So how's your week been?
Well, let's see. We saw what did we see? We saw Ghostbusters Afterlife. Did you see that?
I did not. I have seen reviews of it and pitch meetings of it and honest trailers of it and stuff, and I am comfortable saying I don't want to watch it. It's not for me. End of response. I don't want to. It's not for me, so I shouldn't talk about how I feel. But I will say, how did you like it?
Well, the thing is, so the young lead actress who's been in so many things, right? She was in Hill House.
She's the young version of so many main characters in stuff.
I've seen her in so many things and she does such a good job. I thought I kind of like to see how she does in this. And the thing is,
you're obsessed with Paul Rudd. That's what it is. You're obsessed with Paul Rudd.
She pretty much does the same thing in every role she's in, mostly, and it's not that different in this. She was almost typecast in it for the role that she was playing, but she still did a good job. And I still thought, I'd still like to, hope to see as she takes on adult roles that if she can sort of get more range or something, because I think she's probably very talented. But I mean, like you're saying, it obviously wasn't made for me or anyone remotely like me, but it wasn't bad. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know. There is something kind of nice about knowing, because I think it did pretty well with audiences anyway. Critics weren't that thrilled with it, but the idea that there's some, 10-year-old who watches this movie and gets really into the Ghostbusters or whatever, and they kind of have a similar experience that a lot of other people had in 1984 when they saw the first movie. I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess, that's happening. So
I have heard comparisons made to The Force Awakens.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, in so many ways, because, well, one of the biggest ways, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say so, is there's a lot of borrowed, I mean, it's sort of beat for beat the first movie, just in a different place and so on and so forth, just like Force Awakens was. So yeah. And do I think it's a good thing that Hollywood has gone this direction? No. But that said, I liked Force Awakens. I've watched it many, many times. So it's kind of I wish Hollywood was doing something original and new and different and everything else. But as long as they're digging stuff up, some of it is kind of entertaining. So yeah, it's not that big, it's not that bad. I don't like, for you to not watch it, I think I get that. Totally get that.
It's the same reason I'm not watching the new Matrix movie, and I'm getting real mature about this shit nowadays. Because there's a generation of people who are Star Wars fans, who are old enough that they're adults now, and whose introduction to Star Wars and their most beloved part of it is the prequel trilogy.
Yeah, right.
Like, it happens. Hollywood won't let go of the property, and they want to make it to appeal to the new generation. I will argue in this case, I feel like they wanted it to appeal to people who were angry about the 2016 one, which seems like a weird demographic to go after.
No, I agree.
But insofar in general that this is, the next generation of stuff. And I had my share of that. Honestly, my entry into Star Trek, I mean, I watched reruns as a kid or whatever, but when I really got into Star Trek was Star Trek: The Next Generation. Right. Like, that was my jam, and I was just the right age. I am one of those boys who was just the right age that I actually thought Wesley Crusher was cool, and I really identified with him. In retrospect, that's horrifically embarrassing, but at the time, I really was like, no, he's awesome. He's just like me. And so I am learning that I don't have to participate, and it doesn't mean other people can't, and it doesn't change shit about my versions of the movies that I like.
That's right.
And also, at least for me. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was great for its time and everything. Ghostbusters, the original, which is the one that I liked, hasn't aged super great.
No.
A lot of people will disagree with that, but for me, it doesn't ring true in the same, and that's fine too. We hit movies at different points in our lives, and they have different meanings to us at the time. And there are some movies that really resonate deep inside in such a way that even when I watch them now and I can see a bunch of stuff, it still hits that chord for me. Ghostbusters isn't doing that as much anymore, but that's fine. I don't need to be watching movies from 85 to, get my vibe back.
Meanwhile, the stuff they're making for Boba Fett and the Mandalorian and Mandalorians in general are all pretty cool. I mean, if someone would have told me that
Mandalorians in general, that might be the episode title. The things they're making for the Mandalorian and just Mandalorians in general.
There are people who have been fans of like Mandalorian stuff for years. There's a group that cosplays as Mandalorian. You make your own custom armor or whatever. And they've been into this for a long time, and they're very interesting people. And so
they commit a lot to it. Have you seen the prices of Beskar on eBay? It's ridiculous.
But for them, this is like a golden age, right? And to think, for a long time, but the conventional wisdom was you're not going to be able to make a good popular Star Wars property without Jedi in it. And there are Jedi showing up once in a while, but the main focus of this series is not Jedi. Jedi are peripheral to the whole thing, and it's very popular and people like it. And I like it a lot.
Star Wars is a restaurant, and a lot of the things they are doing right now are focusing on parts of the menu that I actually really enjoy. The movies, by and large, do not.
Well, the season finale of the Book of Boba Fett was good. I loved it.
The Book of Boba Fett. Okay,
I might.
So it is done now. So it is done now. So we can watch it because we might need to grab something. We started up Righteous Gemstones season 2 because we thought it was almost done, and then we recently found out it's going to have 15 episodes. So we might need to slow down.
They had the finale, and it was so good. It was really good. So yeah, we've been really enjoying that stuff. Oh, and as we discussed, probably
Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett.
What is the matter? Are you having a stroke over there?
No, I just like saying it that way. It's sort of like Hitchcock would say it. The Book of Boba Fett.
Okay. How would Winston Churchill say it? Wait, don't. And I saw
Winston Churchill famously said of Boba Fett in 1943.
And I saw my new therapist on Sunday, which went, it was a first session. So, you don't.
She didn't strike you in the face.
Healed. No, she, but she was, very nice and clearly very competent. And it's totally going to work out. I can already tell. So, I look forward to meeting with her again this coming Sunday. Now, eventually we're going to not be meeting on Sundays. She's only doing that right now because of various reasons.
Because her real job is at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. And so we'll, there'll be sometime during the week after a while, but it was a overall very positive experience, I think, which, I'm not surprised by that. Nice. I told her I'd never done therapy before, which is true. I'd never done one-on-one therapy before.
And you're like, but I have done a podcast for 11 years. That's kind of like it.
No, I mean, I've been in therapy with like other people.
Group sessions.
And it wasn't my therapy. So I might have to clarify that so she knows what my experiences have been. But the one-on-one therapy thing I'd never done before. And that's what I meant. But so yeah, I thought it went really, really well, and I look forward to our future sessions. I think it's going to be good. I think it's going to be a good thing.
all I will say, because every therapist is a little bit different, but there are some universal things, is the first time, and it may be weeks from now, when she brings out the harness, don't get scared. Just put it on and close your eyes. It's gonna be fine.
No, I think I'll get scared.
I mean, it's just gonna make it worse.
Well,
All right. I might be, well, I don't want to say on my way out with therapy, but I might be perilously close to cutting back the sessions. I'm very scared of that because, I tried it one time, didn't go well. And also at this point, I'm like, there are so many people in need of therapy. If I cut back, I probably can't get those, like probably can't switch back to every week. But then I'm like, that's incredibly selfish. The whole point is that tons of people need therapy right now. So what are you doing? But yeah, I'm at a point now where a lot of our therapy sessions are just sort of like thought experiments about my feelings about things. And it mostly comes down to like nothing in the session changes what I know I need to do going forward and the habits that I'm reinforcing. And I find it incredibly interesting, but it's sort of academic and I think maybe is not a fair use of a therapist. So we'll see. I'm waiting for a few weeks to be good in a row because I had a good week, but then like, what if this week is shitty, So I need to make sure it's sort of a trajectory and not just a one-off.
Right. And of course you want to get her input on that too, because as I understand it, it's not uncommon for sessions to plateau for a little while or the next insight or the next thing happens and it starts to kind of be productive again. So you want to make sure that you're not being premature there just because you have a little dry spell. I'm
definitely not going to stop therapy anytime soon.
Right.
But yeah, we're at least going to wait a few weeks to see if things sort of keep this way.
I mean, that sounds good. I mean, that sounds like progress for you. That's good.
I'm pretty pleased. A lot of my stuff, the acute issues. I mean, I got business going way back, but a lot of the acute issues that are the reason I got into therapy this time, I think stem from COVID and losing my job and everything put me in a situation where I'm by myself a lot more and alone with my thoughts a lot more. And I don't socialize as much, which is something that I really get into. I might be getting used to that and like fine with it. And it's reminding me a little bit of when I was in high school, my father retired and it took him about a year or so to sort of get comfortable with being retired.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm thinking I might, and part of me is like, do I want to be somebody who's comfortable spending a lot of time alone? But I'm like, I mean, it sort of is moot. I mean, this is what my life is right now. And so being in a situation where I like that is probably good. But it's very interesting because I wouldn't have thought it's something that I would have sort of acclimated to, but I think that's starting to happen. Of course, a lot of Final Fantasy 14 is helping. I'm playing a lot of that game.
Yeah. Well, what else do you want to say about your week?
Not a lot to talk about. I do want to talk about the movie we watched last night. Because last night, sort of out of nowhere, we decided to watch a movie I had never seen, and Trish had not seen in a very long time, The Stepford Wives.
Oh, which one? Isn't there two?
Yes, the fucking original.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I have never seen, never will see, and am infuriated about the remake, just on the few things I know about it.
Okay.
It's one of the, it's like Zack Snyder did it. It's a remake that clearly had no fucking clue what the original was about. Or what the was. But question, have you ever seen The Stepford Wives?
I've seen both of them, yes. original.
Oh my God. You watched the other one? Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I did.
I
Well,
had not. I'm sorry.
I thought the new one would be better than it was. And it was not as good as
Well,
I thought it was going to be.
but based purely on the trailer, it was kind of a comedy.
I don't remember even seeing the trailer. I just remember,
Yeah.
I mean,
I also know like what the twist was and everything, but it was also sort of set up as a comedy, maybe a black comedy, arguably, but a comedy, which the original is not.
No, I mean,
all.
I just had some high expectations is all.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just did, and then it didn't meet those expectations. So
it was very interesting. We talked about the movie for a long time afterward. And looked some stuff up. It's very interesting. Couple of interesting facts about it. It's based on a novel by Ira Levin, who also did, among many other novels, Rosemary's Baby and Kiss Before Dying. And so this is very interesting because this is a gentleman who clearly in the 60s and 70s at least had very strong feelings about the gender dichotomy in society. And I'm kind of impressed. Also, the screenplay for this, William the Princess Bride Goldman, like the guy who wrote the book. I always forget he did a whole bunch of shit with books and with film and stuff other than the Princess Bride, and I always forget that because I just remember the Princess Bride. But yeah, so that was kind of fascinating. I think it's a very good movie. When we started talking about it, I wanted it to be a lot more, a lot of other things as well. And I was disappointed that it was not.
Oh.
But then as time went on, I'm like, well, it, like, based on the time it was done and everything, it didn't need to be those things. And also, that wasn't its point. I mean, I don't know how we do this. People, it's a trope now. The Stepford Wives. We all know what that means. We all know, even if you haven't seen the movie, they make robots wives. That's what's going on. Is in this town, they take away the wife and they replace her with the robot. I'm just saying that out here front so we can talk openly about this because we like to get vague and it's just annoying. But if you haven't seen it, go see it. It's on Tubi, so you can watch it for free right now. So check it out. It's from 1975. It has a lot of faces you might recognize. I know I did. I was like, I know that guy. And actually, there's a real fun one in that there's a very small role of the manager of the supermarket who has like one scene that he's in. And I'm like, I know that guy. In fact, I think, and I looked it up and I was right. He fucking 9 years later played Baron Harkonnen in the David Lynch version of Dune. But in this, he's just like this doughy looking small town grocery. And I looked, and actually his career was very involved in lots of very different roles and stuff. But it was just, I was like, that's Baron Harkonnen in that weird tweed jacket, talking about what great deals they've got. Like, it's just confusing. I think it was a very effective horror movie, and make no mistake, I consider it a horror movie, even though there's very little blood, very little violence, no gore to speak of. But it's definitely a horror movie. I think it's a good movie. And actually the director of the cinematography on it was somebody who has had quite a career. It wasn't a name I knew, but they got a lot, like, it was pretty well shot. And it was a great political statement, especially for the time. I do not think it was a good piece of speculative fiction. And that's what I wanted. And I'll tell you why. I am fine with the fact that you can't poke at the structure of the story very much, because again, in speculative fiction, sometimes you can't. Sometimes they just say, what if And you're like, but
Right.
that wouldn't work. And they're like, that's not the point. And so let's skip the idea that in 1975 we could make robots that look and sound and feel exactly like human beings. All of that aside, the motivation, or the self-described motivation of the men for doing this makes no real sense. And I should put it this way, because I said to Trish, I'm like, why are they doing this? And Trisha's like, it might just be misogyny. And I'm like, that can't be it. I mean, I'll take it back. That can definitely be the reason they're doing it. That can't be the reason they believe they're doing it. And yet, when they ask about it, he's like, we do it because we can. And he's like, and it's a perfect solution, perfect for us and perfect for you, which also makes no sense because they're not cyborgs. They're not like tinkering with their wives to make them perfect. Their wife gets killed. Their wife's just gone. And now they have a robot. Like, there's no downloading of consciousness or any of that stuff. The wife, once this is all done, is no longer involved. The wife was the template for the appearance and the voice, and that is it. And this also flies in the face of what seems to be some genuine concern from the protagonist's husband. And he's like, I love you. You clearly don't love her, because you're going with this plan where you're like, yeah, kill her. Just give me somebody who looks like her. I'm like, no, that's not. If it had been something more along the lines of, we turn your wife into a cyborg with no control, and that, like, then you can play around with these arguments. But if they're basically like, you know what? We decided we'd rather fuck a robot, and we don't want all the hassle of people asking where our wives are. The end. That's not interesting. That's not thought-provoking. That's not anything. So there could have been so much more, but that's not the point. And as I said at the time, even though the movie is very much not subtle at all, the political speech of it, the social commentary of it, as blatant and obvious and heavy-handed as it is, I believe, intended as subtext. And it is first and foremost meant to be a scary / entertaining movie. And in that context, they don't need all that other stuff. What I'm talking about belongs to the art house version of the Stepford Wives. And honestly, the Stepford Wives, barring a couple of scenes and a couple of pieces of language, could very easily have fit in as a TV movie just fine. It was definitely had a very mainstream scary movie vibe to it. So I think I'm just looking a gift horse in the mouth, essentially.
I think some of that stuff that you mentioned, I think I sort of had a sense of that when I saw it too, except I really took the replacing the wife aspect really in the sort of the spirit of almost a satirical, like almost like Jonathan Swift suggesting, eating children or whatever. It's like it doesn't make sense. It's almost not supposed to make sense. But the point is, the point is that it seems like the expectations men had of their wives, and maybe women in general, was that they would basically act like robots. So why wouldn't they be okay with a robot replacing their wife? Well, of course, for all the reasons you just said, it's more complicated than that. And that would be a more interesting story in a lot of ways. But there's almost a satirical aspect to. So, I mean, like you were saying before, with the new movie trying to be a black comedy, maybe that's what they were trying to riff on a little bit. Although when I saw it, I felt like they missed the whole point. So I guess that's not really funny, but.
And I buy that. If we weren't, the problem is there is so much realism involved Again,
Yeah.
in the primary marriage,
No, yeah, you're
there's
right. No,
actual
you're right.
conflict and actual stuff. If from jump everybody was treating the women like property, then it kind of makes sense. But again, at that point, I'm like, it's also then it's an episode of the Twilight Zone. You don't need a whole
No,
movie for that. And I
but
will say, this is a 2-hour movie, and I did not think it stretched too long. And this is coming from somebody, as most people would be, and anybody who listens to this now, knowing what the end was going to be,
yeah, well,
essentially.
you know,
I
you
didn't
called
get bored.
a 2-hour episode of the Twilight Zone. Again, that's pretty much how I watched it. So that was my sort of psychology on it the whole time. But you're right. It's everything you're saying is correct.
It hints at stuff.
For a movie. Yeah. Yeah. For a movie, it needs to be more. Yeah. I hear what you're saying.
As counterpoint, I think Rosemary's Baby dug much more into the material from a realistic perspective, Satan notwithstanding, in an interesting way. But again, also Rosemary's Baby, the political commentary is subtext, and again, it's just a scary movie first and foremost, and you got to give credit for that. And this is the thing, I like Stepford Wives. I would recommend people see Stepford Wives, also just for the cultural touchstone, because we all know it. I was amazed. The scene we always see when people reference Stepford Wives and show a little clip does not show up where I expected it to in the movie. I guess I kind of don't want to spoil that, because the details of the ending I will leave. Just the twist that we all know. I found that kind of fascinating. But yeah, there was and it sparked a whole thing, because we were talking, and Trisha's like, and this was made by a guy. This was made by several guys. The guy wrote the book, a guy wrote the screenplay, a guy directed it. And that's really cool, and especially for the time. And I said, yeah, however, and this might be tricky to explain, and there's a lot of factors involved here. A guy would not make a movie like that today. A woman would. A woman has. There have been several movies that were paper thin veils of gender commentary done as horror films that we have watched. Lucky and Bitch being two big ones we remembered, and they were made by women. And I don't entirely know why. I think that's potentially a good thing. I think potentially it's because that experience should be told by a woman. Also, this was 1975, so maybe that experience, you couldn't get a woman to be like, hey, I want to write and direct this movie. Like, nobody would do that. So but it is interesting that you wouldn't see a man do that now. And yeah, it's Stepford Wives, like I said, is a good horror movie. Lucky, for example, which is on Shudder, and I highly recommend people see, is not a great movie. Like, the dialogue is not good, and it gets kind of murky in places, and it doesn't pace well or anything, but it's an awesome movie. Again, as sort of a piece of thought experimentation. And sort of speculative fiction in a way that we really enjoyed, and it really stuck with me. Bitch is a little trickier, because again, they try and take a comic bent on it, and when you're talking serious patriarchy bullshit and stuff, I think I cringe a little bit at trying to find the humor in it. So that could just be personally on me. And also, Bitch was bizarre, so I don't know, but that's the thing. You have a lot of up and coming female filmmakers, and a lot of them don't have experience under their belt because they haven't been allowed to, but I feel like they have more to say. But so it was an interesting juxtaposition of, this is from a long time back and was done by men and is more successful in some ways and less successful in other ways.
You don't think men make movies like this now?
No.
I mean, what makes you say that?
Because I cannot think of a movie like this that was made by a man recently. But I can think of movies like this that have been made recently by women.
Okay, but I mean, so like Invisible Man, was kind of in this vein, wasn't it? I don't know who made that though. Maybe a woman made that.
I
too.
don't
have no
either.
idea.
I don't either, but you might have a good point. You might have a good point. I gotta check this one out.
Hmm.
You might have just blown my argument out of the water.
Well, I don't know. I was just going to check myself, but my screens are all kind of set up in the right
It's
way.
okay. It's okay, Grandpa. I'll handle it. I'll handle it.
I mean, that's just one off the top of my head, but that could have been directed by a woman. I don't know. Or written. I don't know.
2020 film. My hunch is that it wasn't, but let me look.
But that doesn't mean men wouldn't. And I mean, do you have a rationale for why a man wouldn't make a movie like that? Because women can make it and they want to give him the chance, kind of thing? Or
It was made by Lee Wanell, who is a man. At least it looks like it. I don't know. That was my question, sort of.
oh,
I think there is some of that, because that's an argument. It's along the same lines of, you don't see a lot of stuff being put out by white dudes about racial justice, because it's kind of not their place to be talking about that.
yeah.
And again, it matters of perspective. I think you could make a very fascinating movie about gender from a male perspective. I don't think anybody does. I think they all do it as comedy, where every version is like, we cast Kevin James and he's just a good guy who's just trying his best. But if you do it properly, you get Ted Lasso, which, as we all know, is the peak perfection of media as a whole. So there you go. No, Invisible Man throws it out. So we're just ignore this first half of the podcast, because William just popped my balloon hard.
That's just one movie, though. I don't know if I could come up with any more.
I don't even know why I try. I get back up and I stand on my feet and I'm like, I might have a thought about things. And he just smacks me down every time. I'm like, excuse me, sir. Maybe Christopher Nolan is a little overhyped. And he's like, The Dark Knight, you bitch. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. Heath Ledger was an international treasure. Boom. Yes, you're right. I'm sorry. You're right. Tenet makes sense to me now. Sure. Right.
It's good. It's funny. Well done.
I didn't plan that. It's interesting that that's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm a little Nolan fatigued. I'm a little. There's a group of people, and I'm not gonna lie, they're all white men who make movies that cost hundreds of millions of dollars and are absolutely mainstream blockbuster movies. And these filmmakers seem to be under the impression that they are making incredible art films. Christopher Nolan, James Cameron at this point, Zack Snyder, and I'm getting to Joss Whedon until people stopped letting him do things, which is fine. I'm getting tired of them. And also, Dark Knight has its issues as well. It was just it was the most positive Nolan thing I could think of off the top of my head. Yeah. So there we are.
Bless you. Do superstitions work online?
I've seen a few movies that suggest they do.
Okay, well, bless you then.
But that mostly involved invoking demons and shit like that. So I don't know. Earlier today, I watched a video on somebody's top 5 found footage horror films. And I had never watched this person's channel before, and I'm very confused because their list included some of my favorites and some of my least favorites. And so I'm like, I don't know if you're an idiot or real perceptive. I don't know. So that was rough. Yeah, everybody should see Stepford Wives though. It was impressive. And it pretty well done and pretty well written. Some of the dialogue is clunky, but I think it's very much of its time. And that's part of it, is they really went for the sort of mid-70s vernacular, not in a like how the kids talk kind of way, but in a way that like these are legitimate references and things people would have said at the time. And that's a little weird, but I'll put it this way. And that's the thing also that places it in time politically. There is a line in the movie in which one woman says to another woman in private, remember how I told you that back in New York, I used to dabble in women's lib? I'm like, yeah, that tells us where we are.
Yep. Back in New York, I used
And
to dabble.
And the other woman, who herself is a fairly strong, independent type, just says, yeah, doesn't say me too. So that woman never dabbled in women's lib. I'm like, that's wow. All right. Do you have a question? That's what they all came here for.
I remember those days when people talked like that.
I don't. I just remember reruns of that 70s show.
Of course, I remember I also remember what I thought they meant by that, but I don't even know if that's what they meant by that. Okay, so Beth says, what is your pizza place of choice when you can get carry-out delivery pizza in the Iowa City area? What about the Peoria area? So ours is Agatucci's, Monica's, and Marco's. Are you familiar with those at all?
One of them.
Okay. What is your favorite pizza place toppings you would choose to order if you were not location constrained, Beth?
Is your whole grad school thing a lie and they're just teaching you how to read for the first time?
Shut up. I don't see very good. I really need to wear my glasses. And
you don't because
I don't know, because I can't wear them all the time. Like I'd be putting them on right now to read that, but I'd be taking them off to talk to you because you'd be blurry and
you just get a little chain.
Yes, I know. Actually, I did get a chain.
It's because of your overwhelming vanity.
Yeah, it's that.
Williams, every time, I've never mentioned this before, but every time before we start recording, William says, wait a second. And he pulls up a hand mirror and he's like, and he says it exactly like this. I'm just so pretty. I have to kiss myself. And again, like not I have to kiss myself. And then he kisses the mirror and then he puts it down and then he says, you may begin. Every time, including when we used to record it in the same place. He would bring the mirror to my house.
Yep, bring it to his house. So wait, Williams unchecked ego. Williams what vanity? What is it gonna?
Overwhelming. Overwhelming vanity.
Okay. This is great.
He's just a monster, people.
Did I read something wrong? Because I can't really see that.
No, you just read like it was the first time you'd ever seen any of those words.
Of course, another thing I can do is it is on a computer screen. I could,
What's your favorite taping? What's a taping?
I could make it bigger. I don't know why I just didn't do that, but
all right, pizza. Do you eat pizza? I don't even know.
No, I do. We used to like there was a place called the Wedge out here that we used to get pizza from.
Wedge still exists.
Okay, well, we used to get it from there. We haven't for years, but that used to be our favorite place.
Wedge had 2 or 3 different locations, and now they just have one. And you can still get it. We in fact we ordered it for the first time in a long time, like a week or so ago, because they have this pizza called the Nutcracker, and it's ridiculous. It is a pesto base, and it's a vegetarian pizza. And it's a pesto base, and it's mozzarella, fontina, and gorgonzola, and roasted red peppers, and whole pistachio nuts. And it's weird as hell, but very good. And then someone, I think who worked there one time, was like, "Do you guys eat meat?" And we're like, "Yeah, no." And they're like, "Put pepperoni on it." And we did, and it's amazing. So like, it has been many, many years since we have gotten anything from the Wedge except that pizza specifically.
That's funny because when we were ordering there, we would pretty much get one kind, and it was the vegetable garden.
Yeah.
Which I don't even remember everything that was on it, but I don't
a lot of dirt and worms.
I don't think there are like particular things I have to have. I mean, I don't eat meat, obviously, so that can't be on my pizza, but just about any vegetable topping you can think of. I mean, and I'm okay with pineapple. I'm okay with sauerkraut. I'm okay with all that stuff. So, I don't have any particular vegetable toppings that I'm fond of or anything.
Do you have places other than the Wedge that you're fond of?
Well, there's a Mellow Mushroom that's just right near here that we order from. When I was going to college, the big ones that you would get would be Paul Revere's, which I don't think is even in town.
Paul Revere's is gone.
Domino's, obviously, and Little Caesars was a pretty big one. And back home, Casey's makes pizza, and back home, my family likes the Casey's pizza sometimes. But those are really the only ones I can think of. And Domino's is a big chain, so. But
I have
it's
remarkably
okay. Cheap,
little experience with Domino's. I have had it a few times, but like less than a dozen times in my life.
When I was growing up,
a lot.
When I was growing up, if we had pizza that we bought somewhere else and brought it home, at first it was always Pizza Hut pizza. Always. I don't know why that was. I'm pretty sure there were other pizza places, but if we brought any home, it was always Pizza Hut for a long time. And they'd have they wouldn't come in, you wouldn't have a box you'd carry it in. There would be like a paper tent you would have.
Yeah. I've seen those.
And then, but there were other places we would eat. There was a Greek restaurant that had pizza in Knoxville that we ate at, and then there was a place in Des Moines that neither of these places were chains. They were they were locally owned restaurants that we'd have pizza in. And I don't remember us having chain store, outside of Pizza Hut for a long time until Round Table Pizza opened in Southridge Mall. I remember that, and we liked Round Table Pizza. Yeah,
there used to be a Round Table. A Round Table comes from my region, back in the Northwest.
I think that's right. And I loved it. I loved Round Table. Oh, Shakey's too. Shakey's in Des Moines. We would go there. And I think, I don't know of how popular Shakey's was at first. And then they had this sort of period of time where they had Shakey's all over the place. They had one here in Coralville for a while. But I the only places I can think of where we've gotten like really fancy pizzas would be Wedge and now Mellow Mushroom. Otherwise, they're just, it might as well be Domino's or Little Caesars or something, because Pizza Hut, what's the difference? But
I mean, I have so much I can say about my history and relationship with pizza, but I really feel like Beth was mostly hoping for recommendations because they live in Iowa City and her husband's family lives in Peoria.
That was just my long way of saying I don't have any.
Yes.
Happy Joe's or whatever. That's another one. That originated in Iowa, actually. So anybody
And
who
its
knows that.
taco pizza has spawned a cult.
Yeah. But that, yeah, so I don't really have
Casey's is
anything to say
interesting.
besides.
Casey's is an unusual pizza. I grew to like it, and I particularly grew to like their bacon cheeseburger pizza, which a lot of people would not like because the sauce on the bacon cheeseburger pizza is literally a half and half blend of yellow mustard and ketchup. That's the sauce.
Really?
But I love it. Yes, I used to make these things. Remember, I spent a summer working in the kitchen of the Casey's. Yeah. And it's real tangy. And but here's the thing I discovered, because somebody mentioned it to me in passing. I looked it up one time. Casey's pizza is weirdly high in calories compared to other pizzas of the same amount.
Really?
Yeah, I don't understand it. But if you ever look at the nutritional information on a Casey's pizza, and I think the carb level is also, it's probably something with the crust. And it's just so much higher. And I don't understand what that's about. But I do like Casey's. Trish doesn't, so we don't usually get it. I'm a monster. My favorite is Pizza Hut. It's greasy. It's greasy. And I like that. Trish has to be in the right mood for it. So we don't generally get Pizza Hut unless she's like, hey, let's have Pizza Hut. And then I'm like, yeah. Or if she's not around, I'll have Pizza Hut. I like them a lot. We usually get the thin crust, the hand toss. In general, when I was younger, I preferred my pizza crusts real thick, like pan pizza type things. Nowadays, I prefer them real thin. I have never really liked the sort of medium range pizza crust. Hand tossed, that no. So I'm a real fan of Pizza Hut. I'd say our most common ones are Wig and Pen. Trish really likes Wig and Pen, and they've got different ones, including she gets in a mood for the Flying Tomato one, which is it's kind of like a Chicago style, except the sauce isn't on the top and it's just a shit ton of cheese. But she gets in a mood for those. But we get a lot of our thin crust from there. We also do Monica's, or at least she does. When I'm ordering from Monica's, I'm way more interested in a lot of things on the menu that aren't pizza. But she has a particular one, and it's a problem because they used to be Bob's Your Uncle, and they named all the pizzas after famous University of Iowa athletes. And then when they became Monica's, they renamed them as female University of Iowa athletes. And so now Trish had finally remembered which athlete was her pizza, and now she can't remember what it is now. And we looked at the menu the other day. Some of them don't list the ingredients on the toppings on it. They just give you a blurb about that athlete. And I'm like, that's confusing. But she figured it out. So she tends to like them a lot. We used to do Falbo's. We don't so much anymore. If you like Neapolitan style, which I am not generally a fan. I mean, I'll eat it, but it's not my choice of pizza. But if you like Neapolitan style, in Iowa City, you go to Maggie's Farm. Maggie's Farm is really good pizza. You can also get really good gluten-free pizza there. And it's very tasty. They have a lot of sort of good stuff there, but they make real good, like the old, brick oven Neapolitan style. It's really thin and then bubbly on the edge. There was a place in Cedar Rapids that had really great Detroit style, but then it left. There is a place in Cedar Rapids called Need, that's spelled N-E-E-D, that makes really good pizza, but you have to drive up to Cedar Rapids for it. So,
did you ever have a favorite frozen pizza?
I was big into Tombstones for a while. I discovered late in my frozen pizza career that actually Freshetta is pretty tasty. I was surprised about that, but I do have a favorite. Still have it. Is a Totino's party pizza. And they changed the shape of them, but it still tastes the same. And again, like nutritionally, it's nothing. We put just enough flour in some unnamed type of oil to hold its shape, and then put grade J cheese and meat toppings on it, all of them diced the exact same shape. And then you cook it. And you're going to want a knife and fork because it just doesn't hold together. But I love it. I love it. It tastes like a byproduct from having made a different pizza, but I love it. I mean, hell, I've talked about this. My perfect pizza from Pizza Hut was thin crust, pepperoni lovers, add onto it extra bacon. And I got it. And most of the box was already grease stained. When it, like, the outside of the box was wet.
Yeah.
With grease. And it was so tasty. And I regretted it for like 3 days afterwards, but it was so good. So that's my jam.
The thing I liked about Pizza Hut pan pizza was the crust was basically it coming with its own breadsticks, basically.
Yeah.
So good. But
there was a place, a regional chain called Izzy's in the Northwest that had pan pizza like that too. That was really nice.
We had Red Baron pizza for a long time.
Yeah.
And I liked it okay, but I can't remember why we always got, I mean, we could have gotten anything, but for some reason we got Red Baron pizza for a long time. I don't think it was better or cheaper, maybe it was cheaper.
Or help me out on this. Does your family have a serious, like, generations long feud with Snoopy?
The funny thing was,
maybe you hate Snoopy, and that's why.
We got so much Red Baron pizza.
How much Red Baron pizza did you get?
There was an offer for a lapel pin that was shaped like their logo, and you had to get several pizzas and cut out the little things or whatever. But I got them, and I got somewhere I have a little lapel pin Red Baron pizza because we got it so often. And I don't know, it wasn't my choice. Someone else was buying it, and I was like, okay. I mean, it was fine, but I just didn't know what I did.
You're like the alternate universe version of the kid in A Christmas Story that everybody decided your story was too boring to make a movie out of.
I've got quite a few little lapel pins that, like, a Minute Maid one, and I got some Olympic ones from sending in.
Now that's
coupons
less weird. I mean, that's a thing.
But they were like Minute Maid Olympic pins, so I had to drink a lot of orange juice to get them. I don't know.
Maybe a bunch of companies paid your parents for, like, product placement rights.
Yeah, I was one of those kids that wrote in for things and got them.
There's a Stepford Wife bit where one woman goes on and on about Easy On oven cleaner, or no, Easy On spray starch, and how she loves it, and she's telling, and it goes on for a good couple minutes, and I had to pause it and was like, do you think they paid for that? Because that was legit a commercial for Easy On spray starch. Like, it went on for a while, and I mean, they were making a point, but they worked really hard to talk about that brand. And she literally says, you know, if they asked me to do a commercial for them, I'd do it for free. That's how much I and I'm like, because nowadays that's a thing where like we lampoon product placement as part of our product placement. 30 Rock like perfected that. 30 Rock got so much product placement money, and it was constantly done as little in-show bits about how slavishly and mercenary they were about product placement, but then it would be the actual products. So I'm like, is that what's going on here? It's very weird.
Did you never send in labels for things to get, like, decoder rings and stuff like that? Did you never do that?
I think I occasionally did ones from comic books that my friends had, because I didn't have comic books. Not that I wasn't allowed, I just wasn't interested enough to actually buy my own. I feel like I maybe got sea monkeys once or something. I definitely think I got X-ray specs because I was a little pervert. Those were disappointing.
Sorry. I mean, I'm not sorry, but
No, but in retrospect, but no, I used to sort of daydream about it. I would read all the ads. I'm like, oh yeah, this will be cool. And I mean, I also, if I had had more money when I was younger, I would have bought every single infomercial product ever. I used to watch a lot of infomercials and I genuinely thought they were all the best things ever. But I couldn't afford to buy anything. They were just like, it'll only cost you $19.99. I'm like, I don't have $19.99. Shut up. But I absolutely bought into that. So I think I could have been a sucker for that stuff, but it didn't happen. Peoria.
Oh yeah, sorry. Peoria.
Will it play in? I am familiar with only two places. Well, I am familiar with only one chain in the Peoria area, because it is kind of a tradition in my wife's family, and certain members, including my wife, really like it. And that is a chain called Monocles. And so I have eaten a lot of Monocles. It's fine. Pizza, as I think I've discussed before, is one of those foods that can't be horrible. The worst pizza I've ever had is still fine. Ice cream is like that too. Like, you can't make a pizza that I'm like, oh, why am I eating? No, it's pizza. It's good. So like, I kind of don't believe in bad pizza. I can only say bad pizza and like, this is much worse than other pizza, but it's still fine. Give me another slice. But yeah, Monocles is not what I would seek out in life. But they like it a lot, so it could be a thing. There is also a place not in Peoria, but in the general area, in the small town of Lakin, Illinois. There is a place called Pizza Peel, which I originally thought was like sort of a pun or like a play on words of like pizza and appeal. But I've since found out that the damn scoop you pull them out of the oven with is called a pizza peel. I never knew that. That's what the big flat shovel thing is. So that's what they're talking about.
I don't think I knew that either.
I have not eaten there. Large swaths of my in-laws think that place is amazing. And at least pre-COVID on Mondays, they also had a magician. So that's fun. So you could check that out. I was into Little Caesars. Mostly I thought it was good value. And again, it's pizza. And then I had a couple of experiences, which I may or may not have talked about on the podcast, where I had Little Caesars and then came down with a case of I'm gonna die. And eventually I sort of put it together that like, maybe my body does not like Little Caesars. So I have not had Little Caesars in a while, which is too bad.
So you and I have something in common. We've both worked someplace where part of our work duties was to make pizza.
Where did you work?
Adventureland.
Were you the guy making pizzas in Applied Systems? We wondered who that was.
At Adventureland, I worked in the.
I thought all you did was sweat in the funnel cake.
Okay, so the place I worked, it was called River City, and it was a kitchen connected to many different things. Right. So 1 week I might work in the pizza place. Another week I might work in the taco place. Another week I might work in the waffle cone place. Another week I might work in the other place that I won't talk about because it traumatizes me. Another time I might work in the barbecue place, but the barbecue place was also the donut place and the lemonade place. Okay. So you would just work in the kitchen doing prep, which I did that sometimes too. So, yeah. So, but there were weeks where I was making pizza.
Have you got any good pizza making stories?
I'm trying to remember I'm pretty sure we made the crusts and we put them in rectangular pans, right? And so the pizza that we served was a rectangle, like, cause we'd cut it like that too. Weren't circular. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we did everything like from scratch. I mean, it's weird to say that. You wouldn't think that would be true at an amusement park, but
Casey's
no,
has dough lumps.
I
Like they
think the
come frozen and it's just a dough
Yeah, yeah,
lump.
yeah.
And you do work it out from there. But
the tomato, I think the tomato sauce was in, big cans and whatever.
I would hope so. If fucking Adventureland was making fresh tomato sauce, like I would tell them to stop.
Well, they did a lot of things.
I would be like, you are wasting time and energy and you will get no return on this investment.
For example, we made the waffle cones out of, we'd made the batter, and then you would put the batter on a waffle iron, and it, when you were finished, it was round, and you had to roll it onto a cone shaped wooden mold,
and that doesn't surprise me
and burn your fingers.
Yeah.
But I seem to recall
people come to amusement park concessions for waffle cones. Nobody fucking comes for fresh tomato sauce.
Well, one of the first things we had to do in the morning if we worked in the pizza place was cook the bacon.
Yeah, remember me.
Pans and pans and pans and pans and pans of bacon.
I mean, that's just because it's Iowa.
Yeah. And also we had to shred the cheese because we would get the mozzarella in these huge blocks. And the huge Hobart mixer, we would use that to mix the batter for the things we don't talk about, and we would use it to shred the mozzarella cheese. And so
I assume that's just because pre-shredded cheese was a rare novelty back when you were that age.
I don't know, but sometimes I'd have Hobart duty. So that's what I would, half the day, I would just be shredding huge 5-gallon buckets of mozzarella cheese. And then the other half of the day, I would be making the batter for that evil stuff. And that involved cracking a whole bunch of eggs. And so you learned how to do it with just one hand, so you could, learn how to do that. So it could do it really fast.
Throw in the shells. Fuck it.
And then dump some powder in there that I don't know where the powder came from.
That was our Casey's donuts were from scratch, except all the dry ingredients just came in a bag.
Yeah. That's donut
right. Shit.
And you dump the water in, and then you turn the Hobart mixer on for, I don't remember how long. And then you put it in a big 5-gallon thing and you put it in the walk-in.
For those of you who don't know, Hobart was a very large man who would mix things in this giant kettle. And for reasons that no one ever got into, because it was his business, the only word he could say was Hobart. And so that's, everybody just called him Hobart. In late season, you'd get a flashback, and it turned out he was just trying to say, hold the Hobart. Or hold the Bart, I guess.
Hold the Bart.
Yeah. Hold the Bart, but it had traumatized him to say Hobart. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a good one. I like that.
When I was making pizzas at Casey's, you had rules and you had charts.
Oh, really?
And you'd put in, and you had a little cup, like, you're going to have sausage. All right, this cup's worth of sausage. But it was a thing that I thought was shit, because if it's not like a specialty pizza that's like it's X amount additional for each topping. But if you got one topping, I put this amount on. If you got 2 toppings, I put less of each on. And if it was 3, it was even less. And I thought that's a scam, because you're paying the same. And so once I was there long enough that I was comfortable rebelling, I would cheat and I would put more and all that, until the day when I was feeling both magnanimous towards my fellow man and like fuck all the rules. And I made a supreme pizza and I put a ton of toppings on, and I sent it out very proud that I had made this family's dinner wonderful. And the woman came back so angry.
Wow.
And she opened it up and the dough was raw.
Oh no.
On the bottom. And the person who was working with me, who was working the cash register, they were like, yeah, that's why you have to put less, because if you put too many toppings on, it won't cook through. You idiot. And I was like, oh. And from then on, I actually put the amount that it said of each topping, because it turns out they weren't evil money grubbers in this particular regard. They were just slightly better thermodynamicists than me.
That's a good story, man. That's
just
a great
bit,
story.
just a little bit.
I love that story. That's awesome.
And I can remember like my 20-year-old self felt so righteous. Like the man was fucking them over, assuming they wouldn't notice that if you get 3 toppings, you get less of each topping. And I was gonna make it right. And it was a very slow process, because originally I had just a little bit more, and then I was feeling myself by that point. I was like, fuck it. They get all the sausage, all the beef. And she was not like, you know how sometimes customers can be nice
and still not
come in and say
yeah,
look, this is a problem. She came in fucking, I'm gonna get you fired. I'm gonna get you fired. Y'all suck. And I was like, what the hell is this woman's problem? And she opened it up, and I'm like, oh, that is dough. That is definitely dough. Dough.
That is a great story, man. I don't have any stories like that because, first of all,
you don't rebel.
No, there were only like 3 or 4 pieces. You know, there wasn't a lot of variety, and you came up to get a pizza at our stand, you got what you got by the slice, so there wasn't a lot of opportunity to fudge it. Now with the taco stand, it was different because they had these little tools where controlled how much taco meat you put into a hard shell taco. Well, on a soft shell taco too.
Was it like a caulking gun, like in Taco Bell?
Yeah, kind of. And I didn't. So I would kind of adjust it different and stuff because that was just dumb. But at the same time, and that wasn't a situation where.
And then you found out that if you put 1 ounce more filling in there, it would explode in their faces.
Well, no, the real problem was running out of meat too soon, and then people didn't get anything, so you had to be okay. Well, yeah, maybe we should only give them so much. But
like, open your mouth. I'm just squirt it right in your mouth.
But yeah, it was most of the time there weren't really any options to cheat, so you just didn't. But I think I would have done the same thing. I think I would have thought just like you. I would have thought, you know what, I'm going to really be generous here. Not even thinking that would affect, the cooking time and stuff. Yeah. I would probably do the same thing.
I have quite a lot of stories from that summer at Casey's, many of which don't make me look good. And which start with, I got the job because almost the entire staff of the company, of the store, was fired just before I came on, except for like 2 people, and ends with sometime after I left, almost all of the staff, except a couple of them, got fired because it turned out people were selling meth out of the back of the store.
Oh no, really? Wow. You didn't know that?
The thing is, I didn't know, but when I heard who it was later, I was like, that makes sense. Like, it was that summer was the only time I dipped my toe into, honest to goodness, late 90s rural Iowa. And it was quite a wake-up call. And there's also a bunch of shit of just being at that age. I mean, I helped another friend get a job there, and he hated it so much that he walked out on a shift where he and I were the only persons there. Oh, wow. And I was telling him, like, can you at least finish your shift because you're screwing me over? And it's like, no, I don't care. And he left. And yeah.
Wow.
I used to eat some food out of the trash. I made a lot of donuts.
Why would you eat food out of the trash?
Because so they had breakfast croissant sandwiches that you could get.
Okay.
And at the time, they cost, I think, $1.49, which this would have been like $1997, and I was a college kid. So to me, that was a lot of money, and also not a good deal. Like for the amount of food, they were not that good, like for that price. So I didn't get them, but I liked the idea of them. And there were also health and safety rules that after a certain amount of time in the warmer, they had to be thrown away.
Yeah.
But we had them in plastic clamshells that were sealed.
Yeah.
So I would put them in the trash can, and I wasn't allowed to eat them. That's part of the health and safety deal and all that. You can't touch them. But then if nobody's looking, I reach in there, it's still sealed in the container. I pop it open, I eat it. I did that a lot.
But I mean, why throw it in there to begin with so you could say you did?
Because people were around. I had to do what I was supposed to do.
Oh,
This was when
okay.
people weren't watching.
I see.
Because yeah, my boss was like, you can't do that. And I'm like, I understand. And you will see me doing what I'm supposed to, but I'm hoping you're not going to check the trash later for pipe bombs. And they didn't, because it turned out they were on meth. But anyway, we are over time. So we should
Oh
wrap
man,
this
these
up.
are great stories. How come you've never told these before? This has been 11 years and you're only telling these stories now. They're great.
I'm confident I told some of these before.
I don't
honestly.
remember any of
But-
them. I think they're great.
Yeah, but in the early years, you were blind drunk most of the podcast episodes. So,
Okay.
tune in next week when I'll invent some fake stories just to keep William entertained. Like Bucksaw. Also write in. We always need more stuff. We really do. I'd say we can help you with things, but after the pizza thing that Beth asked, I feel like
All right.
we've proven that we cannot help you with that.
That's my
William's
fault.
like,
Sorry.
well, go where I ate as a kid. And I'm like, you've heard of Pizza Hut, right? So like
No, I'm just,
none of this is useful.
I was just
For
sharing my
anyone.
experience to show that I don't know anything, which I don't. Of course, everybody already knows that, I suppose.
If you know something, go to the blog and tell us. Magicaltalkinghat.com. Help us with our pizza choices. We clearly need a little bit. And write in themagicaltalkinghat@gmail.com. Listen or watch next week and go see Stepford Wives. I say go see. Turn on your television. Get the Tubi app if you haven't already, and watch it with some commercials. It's fine. It's a good movie. Yeah. Okay. Now I gotta go work on taping some antlers to a helmet.